Welcome, Nicholas. It's Will Richardson here. It's Nicholas Richardson there. We are here together.
Now, I'm here, you're there.
That's right. It's Will Richardson here and Nicholas Richardson there.
Well, that's a good title, isn't it?
It's a good begin. That's a good one, isn't it? You see, just don't plan. Just when you're a professional, tried and true over centuries, as some people tell me. Been working at this for centuries.
Always trust serendipity.
I remember George Washington. His teeth were smelly. He was a man.
Most people's were in those days.
He had terrible teeth, and he didn't like his mother. Oh. Father of our country could not stand his mother.
Oh, well.
It's too bad Sigmund Freud wasn't around to screw him up.
Yeah, well, there we are. Another, always beware.
You begin to hate your mother.
I know. It's strange.
It's so weird, isn't it? I'm going to drink some coffee. I just made this coffee. It's special IKEA blend.
Oh.
No, it's half a kilo for a good price. I like IKEA for these kind of things.
Yeah.
Makes me feel thrifty when I'm on a gambling spree downtown at the casino.
I've only ever been to a casino once in my life, at what used to be the Marriott many moons ago. And I was very disappointed because it was not like a James Bond film. I was expecting something like a James Bond film. It was a rather sort of down at heel, sort of scruffy place.
Yeah, it's like there's a fat guy over there with his stomach come out of his shirt, trying to get free drinks while his girlfriend, is wearing one of those leopard dresses that look like they smell like a cat has been sleeping in it. And they just pulled it off of it.
Anyway, the only people who make money in casinos are the casino operators.
Casino operators. That's a job you want.
Yep.
And coin-operated machines and parking lots. I always wanted a parking lot. Boy, that's a recipe for destruction, isn't it? I never have to work. All I have to do is watch people park their cars. That's all I have to do. I live here. I'm near a national monument. All I have to do is walk out, sit in that hut, eat my lunch, and watch people come and go and give me money for nothing. I inherited this plot from my parents.
I know.
These are aristocrats. The true aristocrats are not Donald Trump and people like that and all these tech billionaires. It's the guys who have parking lots for generations.
Yeah.
And they're stupid as aristocrats who didn't educate themselves, right?
Never went beyond the parking lot.
Yeah, never worked beyond the parking lot. Don't you think that's a great idea? Wouldn't you like that job? Isn't that what you're ready for?
It's not a job I'd like. I'd like the income from the parking lot, obviously.
You like the income, but knowing you'd probably put it to good use. Well, educate a child, or not even yours, but some child, and at random.
Something like that.
And, you wouldn't go out and buy a Lamborghini, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
I don't understand why people do that if they can't race them on the track.
No. Completely impractical cars.
It's very annoying. Anyway, let's get into the subjects for today. One, the first one is just a post from Facebook. Here they go again. It's not fair because when they're dealing with me, they're dealing with a professional. So it's rather a surprise for people who don't know me. And I have to go easy. I can't unleash both barrels, throw a stick of dynamite and send in the Gurkhas to skin them. No, I can't do that. So I'm generally pretty nice, but because why not? I mean, the idea is to have a discussion and to come out. If the other person's being dumb,
well, unfortunately,
explain to them that how,
Yes, well, they don't want that to explain to them because they don't believe they're dumb. Therein lies the difficulty.
But the deltas were happy because they didn't know they were deltas, as you were telling me.
Exactly.
That's from what?
That's from Brave New World by Aldous Huxley.
Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. I invite everyone to go to my willrichardson.substack.com, and you will read my essay if you wish to, if you go there, and obviously you wish to, if you have some free time. My essay about Huxley, Aldous Huxley's author of Brave New World, and compatriot of George Orwell. His ideas about the shitstorm we're living in today.
Yep.
Made in 1958 on American television. Boy, they had really serious programs back then, you know?
Well, they certainly did. I mean, nowadays it's just and the BBC, to save money, for example, is cutting the program Hard Talk, the interview show, which must cost.
I love that show.
Yeah, well, they're going to cut it to save money. It must cost virtually nothing to produce.
That's terrible. Question Time is next, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Question Time is less good because they seem to have audiences who are made up of the strangest of people.
Well, you get some awkward, weird questions.
None of these programs can actually cost very much to make compared to other stuff. But Hard Talk particularly, they've had some very good guests over the years.
Maybe they don't like hard talk anymore. They want to they want to control it more.
Well, exactly. Well, this is the age in which we live. Nobody is prepared to engage their brain.
Would you want to hurt anybody's feelings?
Oh yeah, you know, we intelligent people. Intelligent people have to be quiet so they don't hurt the feelings of stupid people.
Exactly. There's no look, and if you are stupid sometimes, we're stupid sometimes, for goodness sake. But at least be aware of it, right?
Exactly.
I guess it requires intelligence to know when you're being stupid and to apologize.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that should be going on. And one of the major areas where this should be going on is in the area of Trump is Hitler. I'm so sick of this.
Absolutely ridiculous.
What is wrong with people?
Because they have nothing else to say, and it is the refuge of the person with no brain at all, who think they will end any debate by comparing whoever they wish to disparage with Hitler. No, when very few people can realistically be compared to Hitler. Most of them were his contemporaries. Mussolini, although he was only half-hearted about it. Stalin, obviously, although he was rather worse. Pol Pot, and a couple of people of a similar ilk. Chairman Mao in China.
Well, it starts with taking over the government without having a plurality, even a plurality, without having a majority or even a plurality. That's to Hitler.
Yeah.
It starts with getting put in by your buddies, the generals,
Exactly.
Ludendorff and then Hindenburg. The whole time after World War I, were looking for somebody to be their right-wing front man, and their extremist front man. And Hindenburg, of course, realized too late. Ludendorff died, but he was on the march with Hitler in Munich in 1923. And then Hindenburg realized too late what he'd gotten himself into.
Exactly.
But and it was too late. Okay.
None of which applies to Donald Trump, of course.
Well, then you have to have your own stormtroopers in uniform.
Exactly.
You have to have your stormtroopers in uniform. Then you have to start rounding. You have to start not rounding up the Jews yet, but you have to start, and criticizing is not the word, marginalizing and persecuting Jewish people, or some people, which hasn't happened. And it's not immigrants. It's not the same thing. People have to read history. Comparing everyone to Hitler is dumb. Hitler did specific things in a specific time, and they were horrendous, nightmarish, and it was evident pretty early on, right?
Yes.
Then you have to invade countries and lie about it. You have to actually send in your troops and stay there. One person I can think of who's been doing that is Putin.
Exactly.
Not even the Chinese are doing that.
Not yet.
Well, unless you include their sort of sneaking into Siberia, which they've been doing, and some areas of Africa. But mainly. Yeah, and then you have to start a war that ends in with concentration camps and millions being executed on purpose, and millions more of your own people, even more of your own people than the enemy dying.
Exactly.
I mean, it's absurd, and it belittles the whole thing about Hitler. So people need to stop being so fucking dumb.
Exactly, I agree
I'm tired
with you.
of it. Okay,
You're right.
See that I'm tired of it. I learned this from Jack Nicholson. He's very in 5 Easy Pieces. It's a great.
Well, I can see your. Well, it is remarkably unimaginative.
Yeah, it's just, but it's belittling the people who were the victims of Hitler, including the Germans.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
The Jewish people. I mean, you know, when I told you last time when we were talking on the thing that I went to the morning after embassy, American Chamber of Commerce, which I remember, meeting on the morning after the election, and 2 of the hottest girls in the whole thing came over to talk to my friend who had on his MAGA hat. Okay?
Yeah.
And said, gosh, we really sick and tired of this woke stuff. We like real men, and we're happy that, you know,
well, of course it is.
These guys are on their way out.
You're absolutely right. This is part of the problem. People do not think they want to be part of a gang, and the gang at present time, or the gang which appears in social media, which actually isn't the gang in which the vast majority of sensible people are part, think only in these woke terms. We've just seen Kamala Harris in your election was on a platform wholly alien from that of traditional Democratic voters, so they didn't vote for her because she was on the identity politics, minority rights thing. And most folk are worried about inflation. They're worried about being able to provide for their families. They're worried about all these sorts of things that normal folk are worried about. But no, this year's Democrat candidate decided that there was something more important to talk about. And that is why large numbers of people, including, interestingly...
Well, there wasn't anything to... She never answered a question.
No.
Never, Mamala, never answered a question.
And she was, of course, part of what's been happening over the last 4 years. And also, I think people don't...
covered up for Biden, you're right. She never answered a question once she stole it from him. And with the help of George Clooney, of course, who's a kingmaker, obviously.
Yeah, well,
I'll tell you a story about George.
He's been.
I met George. I had a conversation with him at 4 a.m, a long time ago, on the steps of 20 years ago and more, on the steps of the Hotel de Cap. We were both famous up and coming stars.
Yes.
Oh, he was an up and coming star.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. Anyway, you were going to tell us some interesting thing about Facebook, just this comparison to Hitler all the time. Yes.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I just posted something I thought was very anodyne, something very basic, right? On the Facebook there. And oh gosh, now I can't find where it is. See previous notifications. You know, Powell put something up about J.D. Vance being a very clever speaker.
Yes.
Yeah, which is true. He's he's an amazing speaker. I mean, he went to Yale. He went to Harvard Law School.
Yeah.
The other way around, you know.
And he overcame a certain amount of disadvantage in his.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
But my point is.
No, but what I mean is, it does matter, but to these idiots.
Oh, that's right. Because no, of course, exactly. He knows nothing about that of which he speaks, despite having
come from the working class,
having a lot of what they would call, not you or I would call it, but what they would call lived experience, you know, or their truth. He came
from below the working class.
Yeah, exactly, and he did very well, and there we are. And the fact he may or may not have criticised President-elect Trump in the past is irrelevant. As facts change, people's views change. That's what gave us science. That's what rational exploration and development is all about.
Absolutely.
But of course, for the left, that's never. The left is, if we don't like you, it's not we're going to debate you. We don't like you, you're wrong. And because you're wrong, you have no right to speak at all. You must leave the public space free for us to give our condescending, sanctimonious lecture to you. And this is the problem with these people. People
Absolutely.
are very, very little achievement themselves, very quick to criticize. The point is, whether you agree with President-elect Trump or not, he stood up and offered himself for election. And a majority of the American people who turned out to vote voted for him. Now, you don't have to agree with him. The point is he had a view of the world, and he was prepared to go through all the aggravation of putting his view forward and stand for election and suffering all the really underhand things he's gone through in the past 4 years, particularly this case in New York, which everybody agrees who understands American law is a put-up job. This accounting charge was a state, not a federal offense anyway, and the prosecutor of the Southern District of New York deliberately twisted it to turn it into a federal offense. Talk about gerrymandering of a result. Absolutely incredible. And really, that is the biggest scandal. Nobody is saying Trump is whiter than white, and I'm not sure he'd necessarily be the chap you'd choose to go out for a glass of beer with. But the point is, in a democracy, people can have a view, put it forward. It's up to the people to decide whether they like it or not. And on this occasion, despite everything they knew about Donald Trump and his many alleged failings, the majority of the American people, including many from the immigrant population, liked the cut of his jib and voted for him. Simple as that. So for some non-entity on Facebook to say he is useless, Vance is stupid or whatever, these people just make complete and utter asses of themselves.
Yeah, that's true. And I thought the law was an ass. But these people make the law look like a beautiful...
No, they're just sore losers. They can't bear the fact that the working class, for want of a better phrase, or working people, which nobody can ever quite properly define, certainly in the UK context, have a view of their own. You're supposed to be beholden to me, your left-wing leader, who lives a personal life wholly different from yours, a personal life which is identical to the people on the right whose life I criticize, but you are supposed to just accept the fact that I send my children to expensive schools, that I live in a nice, safe, white neighborhood, that I drive an expensive car, that Black Lives Matter because these are the people who do my laundry, tend my garden. But you and I travel everywhere by private jet, but your once-a-year package holiday is a problem for the climate. I think people are fed up of this sort of hypocrisy and stupidity.
Why is it that so many of these people are so holier than thou left wing on here? And they're men, but they write like women.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is one of your other theories, isn't it, about the feminization of society?
Yeah, well, that's an old one of my theories for a long time. I mean, that goes back 30 years.
Is it.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to ingratiate themselves with I don't know who. The women are not impressed.
No, I told you the hottest women came up to us. Women like a man, unless they like other women. And other women like a man too. Even if they're lesbians, they like a man. They don't like, because they like women. If you see what I mean. So they don't need men being like women.
Well, exactly the point.
That's a fag hag. And a lot of times fag hags like really masculine men who just happen to like a man.
Yes. Well, exactly. Yeah. Everything is big. Part of the problem is because social media has given everybody a voice. So they think that because they have a voice, they can hide behind their keyboard.
You want to hear this?
Yes.
Some of this stuff that we were talking about, since you're leading into it by saying they hide behind a keyboard. Anyway, so the one guy puts up, the guy Peter puts up, he's a British guy, puts up about Vance, that he's very articulate, straightforward, genuine person. So the first comment is some guy who's got some sense. It would be a miracle to see one like him in our country, meaning Britain, in this case, because we have international people here. And I don't believe in miracles. Okay, well, that's a cliche too, but you might get one. You need one. Maybe he's not praying hard enough, or what do you call it? Visualizing hard enough. So we're not allowed to pray. We have to visualize.
Manifesting.
It's called prayer.
called prayer. Yeah, people should try it because the left. Sorry, just to interrupt. The left don't like prayer because they don't like religion.
Well, it was good enough for Marcus Aurelius. I think it's good enough for us.
If it was good, my view is if it was good enough for St. Thomas Aquinas, it's good enough for me.
There you go, or Augustine, any of those guys. But who are they? Sorry, folks, if you don't know who these people are, look it up. Educate yourself. It's free on the internet. You can even watch a little movie about these guys. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine. Come on. You know, I like football too. I'm a college football in America. I follow it. I bet on it. I'm a fanatic. But that's not the only thing I like, okay? Yeah. Yeah. So you can like lots of different things. And you can also read a book and know who people are. And, you know who somebody was before you were born, or some things that's just out of your immediate circle of news, which you see on the automatically on the news. Do some research, please. Do some research. How do you think Nicholas and I learned anything? We had to spend years doing research, and we still do. Every
day. All the time. I'm amazed at the number of people who don't read a daily newspaper.
It's incredible.
I mean, you know, a good quality daily newspaper is your starting point.
The news is your starting point. I have the Christian Science Monitor, The Economist, The Atlantic, left-wing people. I read The Atlantic. I also read the National Review and The Spectator because I want to see what's going on. I want to see who the best writers are and what they're proselytizing, what they're preaching about. Okay? Exactly. Anyway, the guy goes, then there's this other fellow goes, this guy called Martin, who lives in Ukraine apparently. Says he's an actor. Okay, a British actor in Ukraine. Okay, maybe he's doing promotional war films.
I think technically he's from. We shouldn't be giving people away on.
Don't say more.
No, I'm not getting it. But I mean, all I will say is he's not British, but he is from an English-speaking country.
Okay, well I have no idea. All right, Elizabeth Warren, James Raskin. He's not from America, right? This guy.
No, he's not from America.
But he's talking as if he were American, and he really knows about American politics. Listen, I'm American. My family has been in America for 300 years, almost, both sides almost. My father's side a little less, and my mother's side goes back to Jamestown. Okay, please don't tell me about America. All right, listen to one who knows, and. Also, I worked in politics in Britain. I said, I'm going to keep saying that to give authority to what we're talking about. And I worked in, and I followed politics in Central America up close, and in Central Europe up close. So, and wrote about it. So, some cases, very long pieces. All right. He goes, Elizabeth Warren, James Raskin, Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Schiff, Chris Christie, all genuine and articulate and don't have the stench of fascism on their breath or their breaths. I think just one breath will do. It doesn't have to be breaths, but never mind. Who cares about that? But and then getting likes from all the other children. And then another guy. Hi, Peter. I'm interested in the genuine part of your assessment. This is what he said to a reporter about the story he disseminated. He disseminated a story instead of just told. You see, dissemination sounds bad, doesn't it? He just told the story. He told the story. The Haitians in Springfield were eating the dogs and cats, which is hilarious. It proved to be untrue. But what we did learn is there's a shit ton of Haitians in this small town, relatively small town, that is causing a huge amount of trouble. So if you have to tell a porky pie, a little fib, to get the focus on it, what's wrong with that, actually? Mark Twain would approve, and people with a sense of humor would approve.
Of course they would.
If I create stories so the American media actually pays attention to the suffering American people, that's what I'm going to do. Well, okay. And then all these people, oh yes, we have to like that. You have weeded out evil.
Of course.
This guy is one of the most straightforward people I've seen in politics. He called Trump a fascist, and then he's completely disowned. He said, I was wrong. I just came at this entirely from the wrong point of view, because he's not an historian, he's a lawyer. Exactly. Lawyers lie for their point of view. right? You're a lawyer. I studied law. And you're a lawyer. In fact, I studied medieval law at university. So
I can trump that. I studied a bit of Roman law at university.
You can trump it, yeah. Anytime. I mean, you're the lawyer, not me.
No,
trump it all the way to school. But I'm just saying, and I know a little bit about the law anyway, and I've had to deal with contracts all my life. Okay. And then he replies, what I should have said was watch his one-to-one interviews, not his speeches. All politicians talk bollocks in their speeches, which is what I just said. But it's like talking to a child.
It is. Well, you are, intellectually.
America's Democrats are full of genuine, articulate politicians who call Trump Hitler every other word. Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yes.
Gabbard is a Russian agent.
Their presidential candidate.
It would make a cat laugh.
Well, their presidential candidate is noted for her articulacy.
Yeah.
Democrat. Of course, yes.
Jealous because Camilla could never answer a question.
Well, she couldn't answer. She clearly doesn't. She's clearly. I mean, one of the funniest things on the internet is a very short clip of.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Kamala Harris.
I'm overexcited.
Kamala Harris explaining the workings of the cloud. You know, for storage of data. It's hilarious.
I know. I saw that.
It's very fun. But this is.
I'm listening and watching this kind of stuff every day, even on holiday, every day, staying up, trying to stay up with what's going on. Yeah. Who the best one is for staying up on what's going on? Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly.
He's the most independent, who still tells the truth. Fox is really slanted most of the time, and they're direct, their way, and sensational too. I mean, it's entertainment. And, MSNBC is far left, and ABC, NBC, CBS, you never know what you're going to get. And CNN is just crippled with stupidity.
Yeah.
Apart from one or two people. I like Anderson Cooper. I've just got used to him over the years. I've grown up with Anderson. But a lot of the others are really dumb. There's this other guy, I forget his name. One of their newscasters wrote a book. It's this thick. About Afghanistan. I use it as it's an impossible read. I use it as a doorstop. Somebody should have taken a red pencil to that book, because he could have told this story in 50 pages or 100 pages, and it would have been much more enjoyable. Too much detail.
The only person I think who gets away with prolixity is Anthony Trollope, his novels.
Yeah, because he's describing the
I mean, they are a bit
cheers in the room.
But the way he does it,
antimacassars.
The humor in the Trollope novels is quite good, actually. It's something that, I mean, he's probably one of these authors which is a bit out of fashion these days.
Well, let's not get on to. We'll do another thing. We can do a thing on Trollope.
Anyway, you're going to finish this Facebook.
My aunt loved Anthony Trollope. Okay, so this guy Martin says, sure, Vance is smart, as many fascists. Because I said he was a smart cookie. That's all I said. Like Bill Clinton. That's all I said. I mentioned Bill Clinton. I thought, nobody, isn't it? I mentioned Bill Clinton. He's got to be accepted. He's not left enough for these people.
No.
Bill Clinton is a fascist too, probably.
Probably.
Right. He was able to identify the incoming POTUS. Oh, this guy is a real scribe. As an American Hitler, one who is noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. I mean, this is something Vance said a long time ago, which is crackers. Before Vance swiftly removed his strides, and bedded down with Trump. So this guy's Australian, isn't he, or New Zealand? Because he said strides.
He said strides.
It's underwear, right? He took off his trousers and fucked Trump. That's what the guy's saying.
But he's trying. Well, he's not brave enough to say that. He's trying to imply.
He didn't fuck Trump.
Of course not.
No, they didn't have sex. That's ridiculous. I don't even think there was any oral sex there.
Of course not. It is just gratuitous abuse and insulting.
None of Hitler's gaggle were fools. Yes, they were. A lot of them were really stupid.
Well, some of them were fools, actually, yeah.
Yeah, on the contrary. I mean, what's his name who flew his airplane to England was a nut. Ended up in prison.
Rudolf Hess, yes.
Yeah, ended up Rudolph the Red-Nosed Hess. He ended up in Spandau prison.
All alone.
Until he was 90. But he was a nut. Goering was a toenail painting dipsomaniac drug addict.
Yeah, terrible. All of them.
Himmler was mentally challenged. I mean, you know, he knew what he wanted. He wanted to kill people. The smart one was Goebbels. He was smart. But, you know, in totally the wrong way.
And
He's a totally diabolic guy.
The architect chap, Albert Speer, was quite intellectually clever as well.
Some of the the rocket guy, what's his name, who came to America and built our rocket program. Now it's everybody knows but me right now.
Yeah, exactly. I forget the name too.
Brain freeze. It'll come to me.
I mean, that was the difference in the post-war world.
A lot of these manufacturing guys were very smart.
Yeah, the Americans got the better scientists compared to the Russians, but both countries' rocket work after the war was led by German
Werner von Braun.
Yeah, German scientists ultimately.
Yeah, was the guy. Von Braun was the guy. But yeah, where were we?
Yes, about these people not being very bright.
Well, they're not very bright. It's just they refuse to think.
It's how a chum Ivo described it as the reductio ad Hitlerum. That when any argument engages the reductio ad Hitlerum, you know the person making the argument has completely failed.
So true. It's so true.
And I think the problem is with social media is people expose themselves. They get into these debates, but their intellect, their knowledge is not deep enough to be able to sustain the debate. So they try then to indulge in the reductio ad Hitlerum to disguise the fact they've run out of things intelligent or rational to say.
Well, this is
query whether they had anything intelligent or rational to say in the first place.
Yes, exactly. Well, this is why
that's the problem.
Refer them over here. Go to my Substack, willrichardson.substack.com, willrichardson.substack.com. Go there and read some stuff from a pro, and come back with something.
And be enlightened. Yes.
Come back with something similar if you dare. Yeah, if you can. It's going to take, not easy writing, is it?
It isn't.
It's not easy. It's not like all those things just magically appeared,
It's not easy if you're producing something of quality which other people will want to read. It's very easy to
and pay you for.
Yes, it's very easy to pen a few sentences on Facebook and just hurling gratuitous abuse at people you've never met and never will meet.
Well, he wasn't being abusive, but he was being he was taking the mick, as we say.
Exactly, taking the mick.
Taking the mick, because he's not supporting an argument. Just calling people names is not supporting an argument.
Well, of course it isn't. As I say, and you and I have said, Trump may not be everybody's cup of tea, but he put himself forward. He stood in an election, and people decided that he's the one they'd like to go for.
Yeah,
they could make a perfect choice.
Then
in recent years, they had
people, the left, like they always do, then the extreme left particularly, then say, well, those poor working class people don't know what they're voting for. Poor things. They just don't know. Even Vance made that. I mean, politicians do it too. Let people alone. Put your case out there and let people make their decision. The Democrats blew it. I agree with James Carville. He said why they blew it and how they blew it. They blew it from the moment she said, I don't have anything different to add to what Biden did, and I was in the room on almost every decision. Once you say that, you are not different from the previous discredited government. That's it. James Carville said that. You and I have said that. It's obvious, right? Get it through your heads, people. Kamala did this to herself. Joe Biden did himself, the Democrats did himself by, damn it, picking a candidate who was out of his mind, hiding him from the public, trying to do the same thing again. It's very obvious, even to those poor, unintelligent working class voters who are trying to pay bills, raise children, fight drug problems in their neighborhoods and streets, right?
Yep.
Defend businesses from crime, criminals taking things without being prosecuted, getting punched in the face, walking down the streets of big cities by unknown people for no reason. There's not even a good reason. You're not allowed to punch people in the face. Anyway, right?
Well,
so,
I know.
There is no good reason for that kind of behavior unless you're in a boxing match. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, let's move on to the second part of our wonderful Wednesday. This wonderful Wednesday, a week after the election, and boy, things are happening. People are getting put into this cabinet, and there's a lot of talk over here. I was just having lunch yesterday with a friend who was coming through. He's a doctor from Michigan, from Wisconsin, who's on his way to Ukraine with medical supplies for surgery supplies, and to go to a conference about women in the medical profession in Ukraine. His wife's a doctor from Ukraine, was born in Lviv. He's going there. This guy is amazing. Like so many other people, I don't care about George Clooney, okay? I don't care about Taylor Swift. I could give a shit about these people. They don't matter. What matters is people doing things that are important and that they've dedicated their life to. So in our case, we've dedicated, in my case, a very long time, in your case, a substantial part of your life, to being a journalist and observing and talking about it, and to being a lawyer for a very long time, all your life, a very long time to some of our listeners, be all their life, me too. And I've dedicated my life to journalists, to experiencing wars and all kinds of different things, trying to understand the world, and then write about it and get paid for it. I didn't just start doing this, and you didn't just start doing this yesterday. We get paid to do it. All right? We get paid to do this. So if you're not getting paid to do this, listen up. And comment. Let us know what you think. We're happy to talk with you. It's not like that, but don't get holier than thou. You haven't put in your time. If you're an ingenue, I don't care what age you are, if you're a beginner, kick back, take it easy. We can have a conversation. It's not a problem. But don't get supercilious with me or with Nicholas. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's enough of that. So the big thing, the big difference this time is the mandate having the Senate and the House of Representatives, having the Supreme Court, all leaning conservative, having a lean conservative president, because I think of Trump as a practical guy. I don't think he's not a man of ideology. He's just and he's a German Scot. His mother is of Scottish derivation. His father is of German origins, and they are practical people. Scots are hard-headed, practical people for the most part, and they like a penny, and they're canny with the money, eh? And and the Germans, they like to know how many beans make fire too. So he comes from this kind of genetic background, and he's a deal maker. He's not an ideologue. You can forget that. He has never read about Hitler. I don't believe he had Hitler's speeches by his head. He doesn't make speeches like Hitler.
No.
He makes speeches like the guy who had a TV show, or a businessman talking to the Chamber of Commerce. He doesn't make ideological speeches, and he never has. I mean, he was a Democrat most of his life, moderate Democrat. So everybody needs to shut up and read more about this guy, because we have to come to terms with what we need to do to save civilization.
Well, exactly, we
The
do.
world's going to be fine. It'll go spin on without us. But civilization, what are we going to do? That's the question before all of us. To stop these wars, to prevent World War III, a nuclear exchange, which could be the end of everything. It's probably the biggest threat to us. That'll get us quicker and sooner than climate change, won't it?
Yes.
Nicholas, don't you think?
I do. Actually, on climate change, I was reading an article yesterday, Frigga. You know, remember last week, these terrible floods in Valencia in Spain?
Correct, yeah.
This is climate change. It's not climate change in this particular case, because what has been happening is that years ago, under General Franco, to stop flooding in Valencia and other places, a lot of dams were built. Now, under this weird scheme, the European Union is requiring countries to dismantle dams to let rivers achieve their natural flow. And the floods in Valencia can directly be attributed to the dismantling by the Spanish authorities of a number of dams. And so this is always what we have. Climate change is blamed for everything. But the reality is, of course, in this particular case, and it was the same some years ago in a part of England called the Somerset Levels, where the river body stopped dredging the levels, so there was flooding. Oh, why did they stop dredging? Because they thought that dredging was a human activity which shouldn't be allowed, and the levels should return to some sort of natural state. The whole point is the Somerset Levels in that were originally created by man to solve a particular problem. Are we saying that in the Netherlands, the Dutch should stop maintaining the dikes and watch a third of the country submerge underwater because that's what nature would have intended? Absolute codswallop. The other point, which is also true, if we take all the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, how are the crops going to grow? How are the plants going to grow? And if we're without, the whole thing has just become so irrational and stupid now.
No, a lot of this is the leading climate people just want to make the world a nicer place for them. And
well, it's a nicer place for them because they collectively get money for their research papers if their research papers reach a suitable conclusion. And there are very eminent climate scientists, as they were during the COVID epidemic, very eminent medical scientists who were just ignored because their view did not coincide with the view it was convenient for the majority to adopt. Why did we have lockdowns in the West? We had lockdowns because what happens in all these world crises, and I'm sorry for digressing slightly.
You're diverting quite a lot, but
all these world crises, countries tend to follow what the first country did. If the first country to do anything had been Sweden, nobody would have locked down. But because the first country to do anything was China and it locked down, the rest of the world thought this was a good idea. And it's been proven since that it was a completely diabolical idea. What we should have done is protect those who were particularly vulnerable, the ill, the elderly, and let everybody else go about their day-to-day lives. And that would have been much better for everybody. We wouldn't have had the dislocation of the economy. We wouldn't have had all this inflation because there would have been no need to subsidize life under these various furlough schemes. Children would not be suffering mental anguish now because they would have not had their schooling interrupted. And you could go on and on and on. And people were saying this at the time. You were one of the people saying about inflation. I remember one of your chat shows, we talked about inflation. But nobody wanted to listen. Because
what do we say? Refresh.
We said that all this money printing is going to lead to inflation.
Yeah, but we said that a lot. That was a long time ago.
That's my point.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to listen to the rational arguments.
It was 4 years ago.
Yeah, because it was this. Everybody was panicking, and it was this. We had to, control everybody.
Well, I learned from 2008 not to panic. I learned. Don't listen, look at it, analyze yourself, and don't panic, because the government created all these governments created massive panic, and they didn't have to. But it was a smokescreen to save all the big institutions. That's all it was.
Exactly. It was. And this is the point. You know, unfortunately, this whole incident, both the financial or the banking crisis of 2008, because it wasn't really a financial crisis, it was a banking crisis, ultimately, of 2008, plus COVID, unfortunately, allowed governments to act in a much more authoritarian manner, and even more sinisterly, there has been no sanction on governments for lying to the population or misleading the population.
Well, we'll be looking at that. That's something Fauci is going to come under some, I think he's going to come under some kind of investigation. They need to start with him, because I remember saying from the beginning, too, that guy was a nerd. You cannot trust him. He reminds me of the nerds, the jealous little nerds in high school who were really devious, who were pissed off that they weren't dating.
You know, and institutions,
for example,
like the World Health Organization.
We thought they were okay because they were smart, you know.
But then institutions like the World Health Organization were parroting the Chinese line and were giving misleading advice.
Yeah,
and then people complain. Then and then this actually undermines folks' faith in institutions.
Yeah.
And there are good institutions which people should not lose faith in, like, for example, because it's topical, the United States Constitution is an institution in which people should have faith, because since the inception of the United States, or at least the drafting of the Constitution in 1786, I think it was, and it has guided the American people successfully through 2 world wars and all the other changes.
I think it's 89.
1789.
I believe so. Or is that just the French Revolution?
That was the French Revolution, because the American Revolution was 1776, and I think they got the had the
Articles of Confederation first.
Yeah, and then but the actual Constitution, I thought, was either 1783 or 1786.
No, 83 was the end of the war.
Yeah, so 1786. I read a book on it, the summer of 86 or something.
I think you're right. Yeah.
By an author. It's not a book that's currently on the shelves behind me, so I can't check that, but it's in a box somewhere.
I'm looking right now, so we can.
I think it was James. I forget the name of the author of the book. He wrote a number of books on that period. James somebody or other.
1786. I'm getting all these things.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think it may have been the Articles of Confederation, but let's see.
Well,
somebody out there is going, "You dummies, we know." There was a violent insurrection in Massachusetts, the Shays Rebellion. 1787. Constitution was signed in 87.
Okay, well, I was only.
So they were working up to it.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is,
it took some time, because they had the Articles of Confederation to knit the colonies together. Former colonies together, and then they wanted to. Then there was the argument about what the power of the federal government. So it was Hamilton and Madison and people that, and then it was Jefferson who was opposing it, and his people, because Jefferson was for a stronger local and state government than. County and state government than central government. He didn't win that one.
No. Anyway,
he didn't win that one. We live with it.
Yeah.
I think it's probably that was a fight that Jefferson could stand to lose, because I think it was in the interest of the country to have a stronger government than he wanted, but not the one we have now. Which brings us to the subject. What is SEGU?
I know.
Fantastic SEGU.
A SEGU.
Is that how you say it? SEGU?
I don't think so. Seg, isn't it? I don't know.
Segway, I think.
Well, Segway was those one wheel, those 2 wheel stand up sort of electric bikes.
I said SEGU one, joking. I used to say SEGU joking. People go, no, it's Segway. Segway. It's Segway.
Yes.
Don't get it wrong again. Okay,
well, not everybody has our sense of Not everybody has our
I
sense
want
of
to go
humor.
to Elon Musk and Ramo
Yeah,
Ramadavalindo.
Elon Musk, yes. Elon Musk. Well, there we are. He's
Mr.
going to bring
Ramaswamy. Yeah.
going to bring efficiency to the American government.
Well,
All
this
being
is the idea. You know, a friend of mine has been working on that openthebooks.org, openthebooks.org for years. The founder of that recently died. It's a Polish American, both of them. They're all Polish Americans on the top of that thing, I think, or at least there's a significant amount, because Poland has an early democratic tradition. You know, they challenged the nobility in Poland, just as the nobility was challenged in England, challenged the king and was challenged itself in England, but much earlier, in the 18th century. So Poland has this tradition, one of the longest in Europe. The British are first, then Poland and France can argue for second place. But I suppose Poland was more civilized about it than the French were. Not hard to argue, is it?
I don't think, no, it's not hard to argue.
Yeah. And so they're coming in. What do you know about this? You talk.
Well, not a great deal other than the fact they're coming in, and I think Musk has said that he reckons there are $2 trillion worth of savings to be made.
They want to cut by 75%. There are 400 or 500 agencies, I think.
There's a lot of waste in all governments everywhere.
Yeah, and in military expenditure and everything. And that's, hey, guess what? That's our money.
Of course
and
it
they
is.
enslave, the governments enslave the people to pay them, because once you vote, this is my bureaucracy is not democracy argument. Once you vote for representatives and they're in, they do the sort of things that you wanted them to do, well, depending on which region you're from, of course, because people in the city don't vote for agrarian benefits because they don't understand it. And their politicians are representing their city interests, urban interests, not the rural interests. For example, in the simple way, that's how it works. So on its simplest level, then you go to, so the laws get passed, and then they start creating bureaucratic offices to adhere to take care of these problems, to oversee these resolutions of these problems, to regulate. Some of them are regulations, regulatory bodies. Some of them are institutes that study things, etc. And then you have the institutions which handle healthcare and Social Security payouts, pensions, and so forth. Regulate the stock exchange, the SEC. The bank actually is independent, but it's related. So what happens oftentimes is the bureaucrats become unaccountable after a certain time to the people and begin thinking the people work for them.
Exactly. This is the danger.
And that's what Jefferson was worried about.
And he was right to be worried.
Scared him stiff. And we see the results now as this huge bureaucracies in Europe and America strangling the EU, this bureaucracy. They never saw a regulation they didn't like in the EU.
Well, no, they seek to regulate more and more. And the fruits of their labours are seen by the declining share of world GDP which European Union countries now have. And okay, you could argue that's because other parts of the world are increasing their GDP, so fine. So then if you compare the European Union GDP with that of the United States, which slightly exceeded that of the United States 20 years ago, but now is far below that because of regulation, which is a cost.
Stopping the growth, stopping profit. The government, when it needs money, slaps more taxes on business or VAT tax on consumers. Of course, the expenses often just get, unless you can think of a cheaper way to make your product, which also happens, or find a cheaper source of materials, or a better process, that gets passed on to the consumer.
And then, of course, you have this, and in the UK particularly, you have all this green nonsense now, which is it's exporting jobs from Europe. It's adding cost to daily life for no discernible benefit.
Yeah, bottle banks that they're putting in, and they're extending throughout the EU. That everybody has to have these bottle banks, which means you can't use returnable bottles to yourself anymore. You have to return the bottles to a central relocation point for glass and whatever, instead of returning, if you make a soft drink and you have returnable bottles, for example, or a beer, you have returnable bottles. Instead of collecting them yourself, they go to a central, you put them in a bin and they go to a central body that collects them. But anyway, let me just give you my definition of this idea. I got my clipboard out.
Okay.
My William F. Buckley clipboard.
Very good.
So Noam Chomsky would immediately, his hackles would rise. Saw that. Always got to know. That reminds me of Buckley. I hate that guy. He was a moron. That's what Chomsky thinks.
Yeah.
I think Chomsky's okay. He's an interesting guy. He's just way, way too left for me. But I still like to listen to him. Because you can learn, people. You don't live in a vacuum, and you may change your mind on something.
Of course.
Bureaucracy is not democracy. My phrase, maybe some other people have said it, but I don't know about it, is my way of encapsulating the differences between the bureaucratic systems and democratic ideals. Systems and ideals. What's the difference? While bureaucracy and democracy often reminds me of being back in college once, or back in law school. While bureaucracy and democracy often exist together in the modern governments, in the structures, they function with completely different objectives and on different principles, on a very different basis. So the first point about democracy is that it's centered on actual individuals, people, as individuals with the individual vote, and the representation of those individual votes and where they coalesce into wedges or blocks of voters with a common interest. Trade unions, educators. I hate that word, teachers, right?
Teachers, yeah.
Private and public, although they shouldn't, but they do have different objectives, and that's a mistake, because teachers ought to be able to flow back and forth. Private or public education should be on recommendation plus your scholastic record, things you've written, same as in college.
Yeah.
They should reward ambition in teachers, and it shouldn't be a shame for a really bright person to teach in a regular school, whereas now you have to have a dumb education degree, which chases all the smart people away. Who wants to get an education degree? That's like joining a union, and
I agree. It's completely unnecessary.
There are no unions for intellectuals, for the intellect. Okay, there can't be, because by its nature it must be independent. Right?
Yep.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Can I see your hand? No, I'm kidding. You don't have to raise.
I know I don't.
You don't have to raise your hand. We know each other a long time. We know each other a long time. The second one is that the biggest contrast between them. Oh, sorry, we'll just say that's more flexible. So bureaucracies, I can't even say it, tend to be inflexible. The idea of democracy, it's based on flexibility and adaptation to the will of the people. And in a republic, it's not even, thank God, in a republic, it's not even the will of the majority. It's the will of the strongest party and the one that wins the most electoral votes based on a countrywide assembly of votes. In this case, we got a president who won the votes and the popular vote, which hasn't happened in a long time. And we all remember 2000 was a disaster. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. We have too much bureaucracy.
We have too much, and it's not
not enough democracy, really. And this is
not enough democracy, but why? That's the question. Based on what
because I think because it's part and parcel of politicians becoming less skillful, they become less desirable people. People have a lot on their plate, just getting through life, and they think politics, they're all liars, they're all crooks, it's not for me. And of course, the more people disengage from politics, the more the politicians get even worse, because
they can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
You have to stay engaged. You know, it's like the sunshine patriot. You can't just be a patriot when the sun is shining. You have to be a patriot when it's gloomy outside and when when things are tough.
And there have been economic changes which have taken a lot of time out of people's life. You know, for a long time in the post-war generation, you know, a man with an averagely good job would have enough money to buy an average house and support a wife and 2 or 3 children, and that would be fine. Nowadays, certainly in the United Kingdom, I imagine it's not dissimilar in the United States, you know, really buying a house assumes 2 incomes. It assumes a husband and wife working.
Yeah.
Which therefore has profound implications for family life, for spare time within the family, for the way the children are brought up.
Well, this isn't altered. That's even if there is a wife. But a lot of times people are on their own. Women are on their own.
Whatever, but I'm just giving an example of how even in the best case scenario.
Okay, so we take a best case and extrapolate down from there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's only getting worse, right?
Yeah. So if for the best regulated households it's tough, for the less than ideally regulated households, if I may use that term, it's infinitely worse. And this is part of the process. People don't have as much time or inclination to engage. And the political parties have become, when I was younger, you know, the political parties in the UK, they had, you know, their combined membership was in the millions. Now their combined membership is, I don't even think it's in the 100,000. Maybe it's a couple of 100,000. And this is part of the problem. Politics at its basic level, maybe it's different in the United States, has become much more of a minority interest, which is frightening. And the caliber of people who have put themselves forward for election is very much lower than it used to be, for a variety of reasons. Many talented people think, crikey, I'm not putting me and my family through this horror show. I can do much better by doing other things, sticking to my profession, not subjecting myself to this constant insult, this constant pressure, the need to reply to everything that happens on any subject by some 20-second clever sounding soundbite. I mean, in a sense, we've brought it on ourselves by making unreasonable demands of the politicians. And they have, of course, also contributed by indulging us with our unreasonable demands. Yes, you can have everything you want, but now we're going to reduce your taxes to pay for it. It just doesn't work. And we saw in every election, it's like this. We saw it in the United Kingdom. The Labour Party spent all its time trying to sweet talk business, promising this, promising that, and then delivered a budget which is a complete disaster for a large section of the population.
Okay, let's not get into budget. Let's go back to bureaucracy, because the thing we're talking about, I mean, no, I don't want to stop you. We have great discussions and we're not doing this. And we've had so many. And
of course. No, but my point is, you know, this is where democracy partly fails, in broken promises and disillusionment.
Yeah, but I think what you're talking about, if I may, is accountability.
Yes.
At this stage, it's accountability, isn't it? That the contract of accountability, the social contract of accountability in this case, about money spending, money being taken through tax, money being spent by the government, is not being adhered to. The responsibility on the part of the bureaucracy is not being adhered to. I mean, we saw this destroy civilizations over history. They become You know, the Rome is obvious. Byzantine, the Byzantine civilization, the Ottoman Empire, which followed it. They became overwhelmed by bureaucrats because the people who are outside the government weren't as who were making the money and paying the taxes to keep the bureaucracy going weren't as powerful as those people, and those people turned into little Hitlers.
Ah, yes.
Now we can say we can use the Hitler because this is an old phrase, little Hitler. I was trying to get there so I could throw that in.
Yeah, well done. What do you got there? Yes.
Little Hitler.
Just
yes.
in the nick of time.
The petit bourgeois. I was going to say a naughty word.
Yes.
But I want those jerks. That's the word I wanted. Jerks.
I was reading in the Times this morning in England, the head of one of the civil service unions think that civil servants will be happier if they can work a 4-day week on the same salary.
I bet they will. I bet they'd be even happier with a 3.5-day week.
I mean, this is just absolutely astounding.
Really, I'd be happier too if I didn't have to write. If somebody would come in and write for me.
Yeah.
Just put a brain there and get the ideas out, and then do all the organization and the hard typing work and all the editing. You know, and I didn't have to write 1 million or 2 words.
But the problem is that
however many it is over my life.
The people are not accountable for the money because many of those in politics making the decisions are themselves have never got up in the morning and had the discipline of having to generate from nothing a pound or a dollar to survive because they have just had the public purse to stick their hands into it.
Okay, yesterday, that's it. You summed it up. I mean, there's more we can go on. I'm going to post something on my Substack, willrichardson. Substack.com. I'm going to put the piece on. We're going to keep revisiting the problem of democracy and a bureaucracy, and we'll be following what Musk and Ramaswamy are doing in the new administration, but they're not there yet. So, and it's going to take some time, and they've got to be careful what they do, because all of those people that get fired are going to vote for the other team.
Yep.
Immediately.
Yes.
And they have to be careful, you know, because way it works is no one in the government bureaucracy votes conservative. They all vote.
I know. It's frightening.
For the Democrats.
Frightening.
And which means, this is the funny part. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Means that the voters, the democracy, the Vox Populi, they pay the salaries of the people in the bureaucracy who hate them.
I know.
And rob them and suck their blood, not literally.
Well, they would give it half a chance, probably.
I'm not saying they're vampires.
Well, they are metaphorical vampires.
Okay, well, you said it, not me. I'm not going to call a fellow a vampire. Anyway, so these people hate the people who pay them. They see the people who pay them as the enemy.
Exactly.
Because the people in Washington are getting money from the red states too.
I know.
And yet they hate them and look down on them. I don't understand this kind of ingratitude. I don't understand this kind of hatred, this kind of disrespect for people doing honest work and honest jobs, this overrating, not of knowledge, but of institutional education and the clubs that you belong to after you go there. I went to those good things, and you did too, but we are free thinking beyond that. We enjoy that education and those benefits, which have helped us in life, but we've worked hard for, on the other hand.
Of course.
But we're not snobs about it.
We're not snobs about it.
And I was taught that by one of my professors. He said, don't be a damned snob. And he was a Rhodes Scholar and a medievalist, and he was a brilliant man.
Yes.
You know, that's not where it's at.
It's not. Good. Well, I think looking at the clock, our viewers will be needing to nip off to make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
Well, I think we will too.
Yeah.
Now, we'll come back soon, but this is the Wonderful Wednesday podcast. Thank you for watching. We hope we've made you think a little bit and or even a lot. Please check out my Substack, willrichardson.substack.com. That's Richardson with 2 S's, RICHARDSSON, willrichardson@substack.com. There you will find a lot of articles by me, music, songs that I wrote. You'll also find links to some interesting other things. I think you'll find all of our shows are there. Plus, there's so much stuff coming. I'll put a link to my feature film on there too. You want to see my feature film?
Of course.
It won some awards. It's a fun film, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah, it has some good actors in it. Very good director. So I'll put a link up for that soon on the Substack, and this is going there right away in the next couple of hours. We'll be back with you soon. Again, thank you for watching. I'm Will Richardson here, and he's Nicholas Richardson there.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.